That is Jonathan Ferguson, the keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, and I'm Dave Jewitt, the host of Loadout, the GameSpot show that delves into pop culture's most iconic weapons. And on today's episode, we're diving into an extended chat from last week's episode that digs into the behind-the-scenes secrets behind some of Star Wars' most iconic weapons.
This is an M40, but M38 scopes were also used. It's actually an aiming telescope for an M4 tank. Looks like a scope, doesn't actually function that way around and in that configuration as a scope, and of course they never use it.
Yeah.
If you like this kind of content, make sure to subscribe as we have new episodes of Loadout every Sunday, including our previous episode all about the impact and inspiration behind the iconic arsenal of Star Wars. And on top of that, we'll still be showing Jonathan new gaming arsenals every Saturday, so make sure to check those out too. Right, let's talk Star Wars.
So Han Solo's famous blaster, the DL-44, actually based on the Mauser C96.
That's right. Yep.
So can you walk us through the greeblies, professional word, that they added? I know you said they added a scope, but how did they sort of Star Warsify this for Han Solo?
There's a whole convoluted story behind this particular prop that I invite people to go away and go down that rabbit hole in their own time. But bottom line was, as we said before, the production designer visited the armourer and looked for donor, like host guns that they could then attach stuff to. And the easiest way to change the outline of something fairly iconic, like a broom handle Mauser or C96, was to put a scope mount and a scope on it. Now, sacrilege for collectors, this is quite a nice wartime commercial example, they actually had to drill a hole into the body of this gun to then attach the mount for the scope to then sit over the top of it. This was never meant to have a scope on it. And that was done originally for, there were a couple of films involved. There's the Naked Runner, the little known Sinatra movie.
Sinatra.
Frenzel has got to be killed.
The Naked Runner.
Both of them had slightly different takes on this Bapty & Co. idea for a takedown assassin's weapon. So it would have the buttstock, or a buttstock. This was designed to have a holster buttstock. We haven't got it on the table here today. Clip on, and then some sort of suppressor or barrel extension to screw on. You know, they love that spy stuff in the movies, and then to clip the scope on as well. So the idea was it was like a briefcase kit to turn a handgun, very much like Generation 1 Megatron from the Transformers.
I didn't think I'd hear about Megatron in this conversation.
Yeah, I know. This is the beauty of this stuff. But the bottom line was some sort of scope, some sort of muzzle attachment, which instead of being like a suppressor or something, was now a German MG81 muzzle booster / flash hider stuck on the front. They had to come up with a new chunky welded-on barrel as well to support that and make it not look too rubbish. Because the scope mount fitted to one side, on the other side there's a mysterious blank space, or is it a metal disc? No one's quite figured that one out, I don't think. And then there was like model aircraft engine parts stuck to the front to break up this outline here. And then there are different variants of the DL-44 as well. It's not just Han Solo's pistol, Luke has one as well, and then Han's pistol changes throughout all four movies. So that's it in a nutshell.
And moving swiftly on from, I suppose, one side of the alliance to the other is Boba Fett's weapon of choice. But it doesn't look like there's been a huge amount changed in this weapon to give Boba his blaster.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because in the original movie, renamed A New Hope later on, as you know, this is pretty much what it looked like. There are a few minor tweaks, cosmetic tweaks to it, but I guess because most of the audience wouldn't know what this is, which is a Webley & Scott No. 1 Mark 1 flare launcher. Break open, shove in massive flare, close it up, shoot it into the sky. People didn't know necessarily what that was. They must have served in the armed forces, perhaps. So that kind of did as a generic laser blaster, just with a scope on it, again, to give you that sci-fi look. But then that was in, obviously, Empire Strikes Back, but for Return of the Jedi, they gave it a whole new barrel assembly with like ribbing and knurling and more of a busy look to it, with the same basic gun as the base.
But I think the very iconic thing is the Sterling, which went on to birth the E11 blaster. So I'll give you that version, and I get to grab the cool Star Wars version. We can see a side-by-side of everything that was done to turn this into the Empire's sort of main infantry weapon of choice.
Yeah, which isn't that much, actually. Yeah, we haven't got the magazine fitted. That obviously that comes out here and immediately signifies a submachine gun, really, having a big mag sticking out the side.
Whereas this version's very small, and I don't think we ever. It's never really said in the movies, but I always assumed there's a battery shooting lasers.
Gotta be.
Yeah, it's a power cell or something.
Yeah. Some sort. You never see them reload them, but that's what it's assumed to be. And in reality, what that was is a 5-round. So it's a 32-round Sten magazine, cut down with the floor plate stuck back on to give you enough shots for the armourer, poor armourer, to have to run in and out of shot with numbered mags. I'm a proud owner of one of these at home with the number 6 scratched into it, so they could keep track of what was loaded and what was being fitted to the guns.
Oh, wow.
And where they gave up or ran out of time is where you see just laser bolts animated in and no actual movement of the gun and no muzzle flash.
So is this one of the movie props, this one itself?
That is a genuine... Now, all of these were taken apart after filming because they were a working armoury. They hired stuff out, so they took all of the greeblies, all of the stuff off. But we know, because quite frankly, the entire inventory of Sterlings at Bapty was hired out for A New Hope, that this is one of those guns. And then it was put back together sometime in the 90s with one of the original scopes, one of the original mags, at least the same stock of these plastic. These were draw runners, would you believe, from a hardware store. I believe it was B&Q. Just stuffed in there to cover up the cooling holes and make it look high-tech. And then for me, the icing on the cake of us having this in the National Collection of Arms and Armour is, believe it or not, this slightly ropey-looking plastic box on the side, because that's not original to the gun, but it was made or acquired and added by Lucasfilm when they borrowed this and the Rebel version back from Bapty to redesign it for Force Awakens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this was used as reference. So the full stop in its little movie history is that it was a reference piece to create the F-11D, the sort of rebooted version of the E11.
That's incredible. And of course we have things like, it's a weird movie quirk that the folding stock becomes like a forward hand grip, and because obviously Stormtroopers don't shoulder their weapons.
Never.
So it is extremely fascinating, and seeing them side by side, you really can see how much of the DNA bled through, and it really is like a quintessential sci-fi relic now. And for me personally, as like a big Star Wars fan, they almost peaked very early with their weapon design and how they went about building their virtual armory. There's
just something about this, although the changes are minimal, the resulting lines of this just, I don't know, I'm biased, I grew up with them, but so this is an M40, but M38 scopes were also used. It's actually an aiming telescope for an M4 tank, mounted to a simple strip of steel. Does the job. Looks like a scope. Doesn't actually function that way around and in that configuration as a scope. And of course, they never use it.
Yeah, you never see a blaster higher than chest height, but all the greeblies wasted on Stormtroopers apparently.
And of course, what we're missing are the greeblies that would have been glued on and immediately flew off when they started shooting them, like the power cylinders that sat on top of the magazine housing, notably. But there were also other bits stuck to the receiver tubes in the reference photos that then are missing from most of the screen used guns. So there we are.
Beautiful piece of cinema and firearms history, that.
Yep.
Good old Sterling.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Loadout. If you enjoyed it, please do like the video and subscribe, and maybe even let me know in the comments section down below or on Twitter @IrregularDave what you'd like to see an episode on. If you want more video game firearms content, you can watch our back catalogue of previous episodes or check out our weekly series of Firearms Expert Reacts, where I show our friends at the Royal Armouries a slew of guns to break down. If you enjoyed this episode, we've got 2 episodes of Jonathan breaking down Star Wars Battlefront 2 weapons as well. But until next time, I've been your host Dave Jewitt. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.